All right, good evening, everyone. It is 6:01, so I will call to order the monthly public meeting of the Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee. I am Jamie Shoplin, the chair, and I have with me Tara Cabs, the vice chair. She's going to help co-facilitate tonight's meeting for us. I will get us going with some comments and updates since our last public meeting. And I did want to share that we did have a member resignation, so Ashley Barnett did decide to resign. She's pursuing higher education goals, and so we will be working to backfill that staff member. So we will be working to backfill Ashley Barnett, who has resigned, and that was a staff member role. So we've reached out to somebody who we had screened previously, and we're waiting to hear back. If not, our membership subcommittee will take up the charge to fill that vacancy. And we do have quite a number of observances between our last meeting and heading into October. This is a big month. October is a big month for ADHD awareness, Down syndrome awareness, dyslexia awareness, learning disabilities awareness, World Cerebral Palsy Awareness Day, and many other awareness days related to people with disabilities. We'll be looking to highlight some of these as we move through the remainder of this month and through October on our social media sites. And yeah, so that is September and October, and we have quite a few here. So for last month's meeting minutes, if there are no changes to those meeting minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve the August 25th, 2025 meeting minutes as submitted. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Laura O'Neill. Is there a second? Seconded by Chris Griffin. And all those in favor of approving the minutes? And 21 approved. Any abstentions? One abstention by Jen Wheat. And any opposed? No opposed. Okay. Moving on. So this evening we do have a special guest with us, but before we move into that order of our business, I do have a few more updates to share with us, the broader committee. So since we last met, a few of us did head down to DC on Capitol Hill to Senator Chris Van Hollen's office, where we met with his education legislative assistant to really try to understand what the state of his bill is to fully fund IDEA. That is a bill that has been introduced many sessions, and he took up that charge from a prior legislator. And what we did learn from that discussion is, as we are all keenly aware, we're sort of on the defense right now in terms of trying to protect what already exists for IDEA. So getting focus and attention on anything above and beyond that will be difficult given the climate that we find ourselves in. But I did learn that there may be some celebratory activities happening in November when IDEA turns 50. So we'll be looking to see if there's an opportunity for us to participate in that. I also did have a chat with Delegate Chris Fair regarding the funding formula. There are other states that use a weighted approach. We have a single weight system. There's a pattern around multiple weighted funding approach for the different types of disabilities that are out there. And so just had an exploratory conversation with Delegate Chris Fair around that. And I also want to thank the folks who stepped up to chair our various subcommittees this year. It's very exciting to have an engaged group of CCAC members that are willing to take on a leadership role, especially many of you who are brand new to CCAC. So thank you, Matt Forgebeck, for chairing the membership subcommittee, Sarah Abbott for chairing our communications subcommittee, for Sukmana Mathur for chairing our events subcommittee, which includes our annual resource fair, and Tara Capps will continue to be the lead on that. We also have Jen Wheat, our treasurer, who will continue to chair our budget subcommittee, and then our ad hoc student voices subcommittee will be chaired by Zoe Hoa, and I know there's lots of great ideas on how to get more student voice, which is really important in what we do here at CCAC. We do have a new legislative and policy subcommittee, so there's a group of us that are meeting around that, as well as the Board of Education election subcommittee. Though that BOE election subcommittee will become more active early next year. There's not a lot going on right now, so we'll raise that subcommittee officially when we get closer to some of the timelines around that. So thank you all for stepping up to help Tara, myself, and the other officers lead CCAC in your chair roles of our various subcommittees. And I think that is it for all that I wanted to share this evening. I will turn it over to our very special guest, Dr. Dyson, who has made time to be here with us this evening. So over to you, Dr. Dyson.
Oh, thank you so much, and good evening to everyone. I think it's really important when you all get together. The work that you do really influences our work, and I'm grateful for the partnership and for the time really to be here. So it's nice to see some familiar faces, especially our staff and some of the committee members from last year. And it's also wonderful to see some new faces to the table. So I just want to really start out. I never really get an opportunity publicly to tell my own story, but special education is very near and dear to me. I actually, this is my 27th year in education, and I started actually at George and Forest Elementary School in Montgomery County, and I had a co-teacher. And so I don't really know any other way in terms of my teaching except to teach with a special educator. It was an expectation in my building, it was the drive in the system at the time. And so I'm passionate about that, and I'm happy that we're continuing that work with some fidelity and really trying to create the condition for people to understand why it is important. That we have two teachers in the room who are very skilled at what they do, and you can't tell which one is the special educator and which one is the general educator. And to come into a unit and just reassess all of the students and then begin to plan, that gives our students opportunities. It includes them in our general education, and so I'm going to continue that work, but that's how I started. And then as I went into staff development and as a principal, you know, I was exposed to many programs. My school, Strathmore Elementary, as a principal, had two very self-contained programs. The first one was a program that was really for autism students who were almost able to do on grade level curriculum, and we did that for about 2 or 3 years, and then we moved those to another school, and then I got school community-based students, which are near and dear to my heart, and we don't really have, we have a combination. So it was a little bit of success and a little bit of pyramid. And what was wonderful about those students is building relationships with their parents. It's where I really learned the value of parent engagement. And it made me think about how not just our children feel vulnerable, but how our parents can also feel vulnerable to the system, to the process of special education. And it made me go and, you know, compete for a job as Director of Family Community Engagement, because I learned that if you plan for our special education parents, then you can plan for all of our other parents, because the questions that you need to ask, the things you need to think about, how you need to sort of break down the edubabble that we talk about all the time, so that parents, how you need to hold parents' hands, because it's very difficult sometimes. Most of the students in the school community-based are not degree or diploma bound, and so to have that conversation in elementary school about your child when you have so many hopes and aspirations for them is very difficult. So from that work, I really started thinking about what our IEP teams and meetings look like. So as a director, not only for family and community engagement, but then I moved into a director of instruction, that was something that was very near and dear to me. Even how we write comments, goals, objectives, that we write them from an asset based and not start in with what children cannot do, but that we start with what they can do. So that still fuels me today, and I'm so happy for the team that we have, because I think part of advancing this work and having a premium special ed program starts with having the right people who have the same passion that I do for our students who could be marginalized, but I feel like they come with gifts, and it's our job to explore what those gifts are and to celebrate that and highlight that. So I'm really proud of this team for all of the work that we have to do every day to make sure people do not forget our special groups of students, whether they are multilingual learners, special education, farms, which we know now is going to increase because of, we are losing so many programs. And so it's important that we stay mindful and that we have open, transparent communication. So I'm grateful for the team, and I'm grateful for the partnership with CCAC. CCAC was really huge in Montgomery County. People were passionate. It was hard to grow it. And so it's nice to be here and see people who are volunteering their time. When I go to the fair, the CCAC, the big event, it's always eye-opening for me to see all the people that care so deeply about our special education families, not just our students, but the whole family. So I'm grateful for your involvement. I'm grateful for your partnership. We have a lot of work to do. We've come a long way. Fully funding IDEA is a huge priority. I was with my colleagues around the state on Friday, and we were talking about having a pre-legislative meeting so that we could set our legislative priorities, and special ed is one of them. As we think about not just Blueprint, Pillar 4, but we also have to think about just in general, how we view in this country special education. And if a budget sets your priorities, then in this country, we need to put our money where our mouth is. And that is not about a political stance. It's about doing what's right for our IDEA population and with the IDEA budget. So we're going to be advocating again for, at least at the state, to do something different. When you think about formulas, I love to talk about that, because our formulas in Maryland are antiquated just for the way we fund schools. We fund on a lagging basis. So if you think about that, we're the fastest growing school district in the state by a lot, and yet we don't get reimbursed for those students until the next year. So we have to be prepared for all the students who come to us and how they come to us. So if they come with needs, we have to be prepared for that. The current budget is not slated for that. It's not how it's done. And there is no formula for rapid growth, nor is there any formula for counties such as Kent and some of the other smaller counties that are losing students and becoming smaller. So we're going to continue to advocate for something different. At least have a conversation about it with special ed, especially in mind. So we were talking in cabinet today, if we think about the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years and the thousands of students we had to enroll, many of them came to us with special education needs or some type of servicing in 504, or they've come to us with multilingual learner needs. And so for us, it will remain a priority to make sure we service them. And you could see in the budget last year, the reductions that we had in special education were really from central office and the central office staff to schools, or reductions in positions. So we're really trying to protect our schools and keep our schools harmless in the process. I'm hopeful that over the next few years we can climb out of this sort of fiscal climate that we're in. But I don't see sort of a break until about 28, 29, maybe 29, 30. Blueprint has been expensive, but revenues, all those things. And when you think about our precious little county, we had 15,000 people who were federal workers here. And if any of them lost their positions, they need support, right? And so I'm grateful for our nonprofit partners who come to the table to still support our families and our students. We're going to need them as we move forward. But again, when we talked about our priorities for the budget, as we're already talking about budget development, special education is still there as a priority for us. We don't have the luxury not to focus on it. We have to make sure our kids have what they need. But I'm excited because we have, I believe, the right people on the bus who understand that, who understand that we might have to give up some positions in order to make sure we can afford what we need for our underrepresented and underserved groups. So we're going to continue to champion that. I had a couple of statements that I want to make, and generally I can just talk, but I feel like the statements that I wrote are powerful and would probably convey better in this moment than anything I could say offhand. So if you don't mind, I'd just like to read it, and then I'm happy to open up to questions. So I want to thank each of you for being here tonight, for the important role you play as part of the Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee. Your advocacy, your perspectives, and your partnership are essential to the work we do as a school system. I want you to know that I deeply value the collaboration because together we have a common purpose, and that is to ensure that every child in our district has access to the opportunities, resources, and supports they need to thrive. So when I say every child every day, I mean it. That vision absolutely includes our students with disabilities. This success is not just measured by grades or test scores, but it's measured by their growth, their independence, their confidence, and their opportunities to pursue their goals in life. Inclusive schools are stronger schools, and the work we do together benefits not only students receiving special education services, but every student in our classrooms. I want to acknowledge the collaboration and partnership between FCPS and CTEC. The problem solving and information sharing allows us to continuously improve, and it allows us to celebrate progress. I also want to acknowledge that this work is not without challenges. I know that families often experience frustration, whether it's with communication, consistency across schools, or the complexities of the IEP process. But please know I hear these concerns, and I'm committed to addressing them. Our staff are working hard to strengthen inclusive practices, implement co-teaching to enhance our continuum of services, expand professional learning, and ensure we have the right people and resources in place to meet the diverse needs of our students. But most importantly, we are committed to listening and improving on what we hear from you. Ultimately, our goal is clear. We want every student with disabilities and every family with disabilities in our care to graduate ready for the future. That may mean college, it may mean independent living, or it may mean a career. We want them to leave our schools with dignity, with confidence, and with choices. So as superintendent, I promise to continue engaging with this committee, to share updates on our progress, and to work alongside you to find solutions. We are not perfect, but we are dedicated. We are listening, and we are working together for the success of every single student. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for your continued advocacy, and I thank you for your partnership. So I'm happy to take any questions you have.
Thank you, Dr. Dyson. That was amazing. What questions do we have? I see Laura.
I know, I knew.
Hello. I don't have questions. I actually would like to take this opportunity to congratulate you for being selected by the National Center for Children and Families as the recipient of the Tom Cookery Exceptional School Superintendent Award. The spirit of the Cookerly Award is the commitment to educational equity, ensuring that every student, regardless of background, ability, or circumstance, has access to the resources, opportunities, and support they need to succeed. The commitment to educational equity is creating inclusive learning environments where all children feel valued, challenged, and empowered to reach their full potential. Equity is not about giving every student the same thing, but about meeting each child where they are and providing what they need to thrive. Please continue to be an innovative leader. Please continue your focus on supporting every student to ensure best outcomes for all the students in your care. The work we do for our students is a shared commitment and a team effort. Please take what I'm about to say as a member of the team. I have heard many, many times, we have to do better, we have to be better. Replace that with, we will do better, we will be better.
Thank you for that.
Anyone else? Was there another hand? Questions, comments? Thank you for your continued leadership and support of students with disabilities and the families and it takes a village, and you have a tremendous leadership team and Dr. Lehman and Directors Buckley and Keller. They are truly, they're hard. We can tell everybody's heart is in the right place and that we're all doing our very best to do the best for every kiddo in the system. And it really shows in the leadership of this team and the partnership. And as I've traveled around and heard about other CCACs and how they operate, I feel very lucky and very grateful for what we've been able to build here, and just look forward to continuation of that. And if there's anything that we can do to help support IDEA or the funding formula, or as you're having conversations around legislative priorities, there's a very large community of folks behind each one of us, and our collective voice and our power, I think it will be the thing that will move the needle, potentially. So
I do want to say thank you to all the staff too, because they're boots on the ground, and I know day to day the grind that they have, and so I just want to say thank you too. I feel like you're in the right place, and we're going to continue to strive for the livable wage and strive to continue to compensation, because we know it's a part of the work, right? When you feel rewarded. So I see you, and I thank you for the work that you do.
all right, thank you so much for being
So
here
much
this
for your
evening.
time tonight. Have a good evening. All right, now I can go get something to eat.
You gotta take care of yourself. All right, so Ms. Allen is not with us this evening, so we will move on to updates and comments from our special education leadership team.
All right, good evening, everybody. We are going to do a little bit of special education by numbers, and just know our numbers are constantly changing. You might see that our numbers here on these diagrams are going to look different depending on the time that these were pulled. So as we pull reports, the numbers are constantly changing, but it gives us a good idea as to where we're sitting as a district. So what we have for you is a little bit of our enrollment percentage over time. In 2023, we were about 11.7% of the population, and when I ran this data somewhere in August of this school year, which is our current data, as of the moment of this data pool, we were sitting at 12.1%. So a slight increase over time is what we're seeing in regards to students identified with disabilities, and that's that first chart there. You also see that our enrollment as a district continues to increase, so you can see those numbers are increasing over time. It's important then to look at how those students within the district are divided by elementary, middle, and high school. Elementary does encompass our pre-K students, so some of our youngest learners, which we've talked a lot about. That's a growing population that we're seeing, right? Our child find process is really growing. Last year, we had over 1,000 referrals that came through that office, so that's a growing population. And what we see is over time, those numbers are decreasing, so you go from about 3,400 in elementary school to about 1,200 students in high school. So just a little bit of a breakdown there. And then the next one that we want to look at is our specialized programs. So you'll see that that's also by elementary, middle, and high. And Learning Through Life encompasses about 4% of our population of students with disabilities. Expressions comes in at about 3%, and Pyramid sits at about 2%. When these numbers were pooled, the reason you see the 0 next to middle school FCPS rise was because we didn't have that teacher in place last year, but we do currently have that. So again, these were towards the end of last year that we saw those numbers. So we would be expecting updated numbers for this school year. The recent board presentation that we did this past week, and a huge thank you to all of you who were there. I saw so many familiar faces, and it was great to look out and see that. We're trying to monitor and ensure that we are maintaining the status quo of our FCPS population as we look at our student subgroups within students with disabilities. So my favorite charts are actually the next two. Troy, if you don't mind scrolling to those, because they actually allow you to see the percent of students with disabilities towards the percent of total enrollment of all students. So what we talked about at the board meeting was in free and reduced meals and also in multilingual learners, you can see that we are slightly, we're a little bit more identified there than in some of our others, such as if you scroll down, Asian, and then Hispanic, Latino, 2 or more races, and white. So again, just looking at disproportionality to ensure that it mimics our FCPS population and ensure that we're not over-identifying students with disabilities in any subgroup category. Any questions about that data? That's a really high-level overview. But what questions might you guys have? Ronnie?
Push it there? Okay, great. So last month you brought up, and bring it closer? Okay. Last month you brought up the IEP screening, and I had some comments about that and some questions. So we're going through that now, the new IEP platform. And it's not as screen reader friendly as I would like it to be. I was wondering if you knew anything about whether it was compatible for those who are blind. I am able to get the text, but when it comes to the information in columns and different graphs, it's all a jumble, and I'm not able to make sense of any of it. So I was curious if you knew whether that was compatible with screen readers, and then also if the vendor does not offer that option. There was a law, HB 1181, that was passed in 2022, and I actually participated in written testimony for that about how blind parents don't have access to their children's education. But the law actually requires vendors to make the digital platforms accessible to blind students. So my thought is, though I'm a parent, I'm thinking about other students in our community who are blind, who have IEPs and 504s, and as they turn 14, they can start to participate in their own meetings. And so I'm wondering if that's a way we can get the vendors to stay accountable, so they can make sure that that information is also accessible to their students.
That's a great question. So you're referencing the EdPlan platform, which is our new online system. And I'm going to let Mr. Keller speak of that because that's his real specialty area, but it is in compliance with that House bill. But he'll speak in regards to that.
Yes, so it definitely is in compliance. I would say that I'll take a look at your child's file, because, like, for instance, if our team is pasting in graphs, that may be the hiccup. So I can definitely talk with our vendor though, because we would want, that one of the major reasons why we went to a parent portal is so that it is accessible for all families. So if there's an issue, that's something that's already built into our contract so we can take care of. But I'll take a look and see that's the awesome thing about the system. We submit a ticket, we say, hey, this is something that's going on, and they're able to let us know what we need to do or either provide the necessary answers for our families and our staff. So thank you for that information, which we're gonna get there.
So Drew, you have a question?
If we could go back to the, we could quickly jump back to the original slide showing the elementary to high school population. I just wanted to pick your brain. That's a huge statistical increase from the elementary 3,000 to the 1,000. So I'm wondering what that implies for your programming. I'm just curious, have you even had a chance to analyze like what that means for RISE or any of the other programs?
So we're constantly looking at our enrollments of all things, and we actually just took a look at our special needs programs because what we'll start to do is project programming for next year. It really starts about now. What is included in that elementary number is kind of what I referenced before. That's a lot of our pre-K students who are receiving those services on the continuum. So anywhere from our 3-year-olds who are receiving walk-in services to 2-day-a-week services, and then our 4-year-olds. And right now we're seeing a large increase in that area of our students with disabilities. So some of our youngest learners transitioning into the school system, that's where we're seeing a large increase. So when you consider elementary is looking at a student anywhere from the age of 3 all the way through 5th grade. So it encompasses more grades. As you look at middle, you only have 3 grades, and then high school you have 4. The good news is, high school we would want to see lower because that means that in many regards the specialized instruction is allowing them to access their education without needing those additional services. But I would say the majority of the difference there is sitting in some of our youngest learners in addition to the extra grades that are supported in the elementary band.
Yeah. The other two things that I would add is you have developmental delay, which no matter what in the IEP process, you have to determine if it is another disability at some point, or if the student has received adequate intervention and no longer demonstrates a need for an IEP. The other thing is our speech numbers. Our speech numbers are huge in elementary because a lot of times we are helping little ones learn how to pronounce words through articulation, and then eventually they no longer qualify for an IEP. So that is why numbers do slightly wane at the middle high school.
Thank you.
Other questions? Go ahead, Allison.
I was gonna also comment on the ed plan. I had a question. Are we able to grant access to our like educational advocates to have them see the program too? That's like a process that.
So actually at this moment, it's just going to be for parents and guardians with the concept behind if there's documents that you would like to share with any additional party, you're able to do that. But not giving access, because if you decide then that you don't want that person to be involved in your child's education, then we would have to then, like change the system and not allow that to happen. So attorneys and advocates right now will remain through parent communication and not direct access to the portal.
Okay, and then the advice is to download what you want and send it off.
Everything is a PDF. Everything is a PDF, and so parents can download and share any of that information at any given time. You can save the website, and we're jumping ahead, but we're going to have parent sessions in October, so you guys can jump on and ask us anything, and the vendor will also be available to help answer questions.
And then my second question was also about the RISE program. Are we looking at a high school program?
So at this time, we have not looked at a RISE program for high school. To say that we might not ever look at that, we are always evaluating our continuum, so I don't want to say either way, but right now, we're just looking at our RISE program being at elementary and middle school. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Other questions, comments? Andrea.
So if we could go to the last slide, I think it was, about the race and ethnicity, and I know you mentioned trying to keep things proportionate with the overall population and FCPS. I'm just curious, what are the strategies you guys are using to mitigate that or to I guess assess that?
So one of the things that we work on heavily is what is called multi-tiered systems of support. And so that's MTSS. And so prior to a student even thinking about providing them an IEP, we go through a tiered approach to ensure that students have access to appropriate interventions. And so regardless of race or ethnicity, we're looking at those needs first through our benchmarks like iReady and DIBEL scores. And so that we have an opportunity to intervene early and then go through a process where we're giving them appropriate support, but we're not over providing support, and then also getting to that place of over identification. Katie's team also at the secondary level, we're working heavily like things like cultural proficiency, making sure that we always have culturally appropriate assessments and culturally appropriate instruction, and having those conversations to ensure that students are getting their needs met. And that's really what MTSS is all about, is a whole child framework, so that we do understand that all of our students come from different walks of life, and taking that into consideration as we go through these processes, because we want students to be successful, and some of them don't need IEPs, and we want to be cognizant of that, especially as we look at our numbers.
For the data that you shared, where is this information going to be publicly available? How often does it get refreshed? Is there a repeatable process for this?
So many of the data charts that are included on today's handout were in board presentations. Like the recent ones that you see here on the slide were in our most recent board presentation. So those are done at least once a year, and they directly relate to what we call our KPIs, or key performance indicators. Internally, we're always monitoring the data. It's one of our jobs to be able to speak to it. And I think in the board presentation, I even reference our multilingual learners, because we've spent a lot of time working with our school psychologist and our multilingual department, because what we were identifying was a struggle determining whether it was a multilingual concern or a special education concern. So to answer your question, we monitor them all the time, and then certain data sets are produced within board presentations at different times throughout the year based on the board calendar.
Dr. Kilpatrick. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Bigman.
I was just going to say, if you want to, this could be something that we could bring forward like every couple months, so that we could kind of just have it as part of the director comments, because it's not that hard to update these data, and so that way we could, so just for you all to decide, like, how often would you like to see updated data, and then we could actually bring it.
Wonderful. Maybe on a quarterly basis, if that were to make sense. Dr. Kilpatrick.
And then, if I'm remembering correctly, isn't that data reported annually to the state and then publicly available for everyone? And then the state reports that data to the federal government, at least right now, that's how that is. That might change, but so it is annually reported to the state.
Yeah, that count is coming up soon.
Yeah.
Zoe.
I know that you mentioned iReady scores and things like that. For students that have adverse reactions to computers or non-preferred computer time, what are the skills that we're using? What are the teachers doing? I know iReady is like a pretty consistent basis of like giving those scores back. Is that meeting with a literacy specialist and having testing individually, or is that something that the teacher can follow through as well?
I'm happy to chime in. So we have been, as the beginning of the year starts, we've been having a lot of conversations at the elementary level. And so we do have local assessment guidance where we want to ensure that students have access to all the assessments that any student would have access to. But exactly to your point, if there are concerns, the principal is going to work with either the testing administrator that's responsible for that, or actually work with literacy specialists. And so, for instance, in expressions, this comes up quite often. And so if the team believes that it's not appropriate, they can, inform the parent that they're going to try an alternative assessment. We have things like DIBELs that can be printed out paper-wise to get other information. Ultimately, alternative routes so that we can understand where the student is in reading, where the student is in math. And so those are a lot of individual conversations, because ideally if it's appropriate, we would like them to take the same assessment, but we know we especially have certain students in certain populations it's not going to work out for.
So in like a gen ed classroom, if this is happening, would the literacy specialist still be like the primary resource?
Yes, there is still options in our manual that we train all of our administrators and test administrators on, that if we do believe that it would have an adverse impact, that they can go through that excusal process. But ultimately, we're going to need to find an alternative route so that we can understand where the student is performing, so that their supports can be met.
Any other questions?
And the other thing I'll just add to that, sorry, is that, essentially we're always available. So if there's a particular student or something where we need to help problem solve, school teams can always reach out to us. We are willing to talk through and walk through all the different ideas. I mean, as Mr. Keller was talking, I was thinking about sometimes students have to take an assessment one-on-one. And so that can be something that can be put in place so that there's a staff member who's helping them. So there's all kinds of different ways, and so certainly we're here to problem solve.
Any other questions? Okay. Do you have more in your director update? Okay.
So one more, as you all were discussing, we are going to be pushing this out to the community as soon as we have updates confirmed with PCG, but you all have firsthand access to this. Some of you all may have gotten this through your schools. We've created letter templates that they can send out to you all as parents. And so really learning the new system. So this is a one page, you can watch the video on how it works as well as access to directions. And then additionally in October, we're going to host virtual sessions for you all to drop in. You can ask us any questions, troubleshoot with us. If you ever have any questions, just email us at specialeducation@fcps.org. We can help troubleshoot anything if for some reason your school team is having hiccups. One thing also is that all of your prior child's documents will roll over hopefully in the late October. We'll keep CCAC posted on that. But that is something that we're working on right now, is all of our 504 and IEP documents from the previous vendors we are in the process of importing over into the new system. And as they get into the new system, then they'll naturally be available in the parent portal.
Thank you. Okay, Jen?
Since everybody on this committee is not parent, but we all like to have access or knowledge of that to share with the community or organizations, are the drop-ins going to be something that anybody can attend to, or do you have to have a child with an IEP?
No, absolutely. We won't have any PII obviously during that conversation, so we're happy to show you all what the platform looks like. I can actually, yeah. If we have time later, I can pull it up for you all.
Tara?
Any idea of possible time in October, given that's when conferences and a lot of things are taking place already?
I was working around that, so hopefully we have some in early October and then some again in late October. Trying to do 3.
That's why.
And we're going to record one of the sessions as well.
I did get to observe some sort of feedback around just some of the staff not understanding or having exposure to the parent experience, so finding it difficult to describe what the parents are asking questions about, what kind of email they're going to get, what they need to click on, oh, you need to check spam, those kinds of things. So to whatever degree the staff can be exposed to the parent experience, I think that'll help them troubleshoot, especially as we're rolling out a new system. And I know that you've done some of that. I will just say there's more opportunity to do some of that. And then I did have my first IEP meeting of the year, and there was a mention in there of, well, we're not taking notes anymore. And so the messaging is getting out, but not to everyone. And so there was some confused looks around the room. So some knew that we were just doing prior written notice. I knew because I'm part of CCAC. If otherwise, I'd have no idea what they were talking about. So just more opportunities to continue to push out some of this messaging to the school sites that you all are sharing, all the good information that you're sharing with us here. Continue to push that out, maybe repeatedly or more broadly, or maybe it's not getting from principals on to other people, not real sure, but just wanted to share some of that feedback because I've heard that from other folks too. Anything else? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, moving on to our next agenda item here, we have some updates from our Partners for Success teammates.
Hi. I'm just going to share with you guys some events that we have coming up in October. So we have our first IEP series workshop on the parent portal, communication, and parental rights happening October 9th at Oakdale Middle School from 6 to 7:30 p.m. We are also hosting a Halloween-themed art workshop for ages 4 to 12 in partnership with Kids Create in Frederick. They are an on-the-go art studio. That will be happening October 17th. I'm not quite sure the date on that, or the time I would have to look.
That one, the age groups are split, so they'll have 2 sessions, so it'll be 4 to 7-year-olds and then 8 to 12-year-olds, and that is an early dismissal day, I believe, so it'll be from the times from 1:30 to 3:30. So the first session will be 1:30 to 2:30, and then the second one will be 2:30 to 3:30.
And then we will be partnering with Brooke and Parents Place of Maryland to host an inclusivity workshop on October 17th from 11:30 to 1 p.m. I believe that's also an early dismissal day.
I think that's actually a
Teacher work day. And then lastly, we also have our morning and evening support groups still happening each month.
So first I want to share that last week we got to partner with Monocacy Foundation, and they did a virtual workshop going through the application, and that was really great. I think we had about 30 families signed on, so it was a lot of families getting the information about Monocacy Foundation. Next Friday is the open house for the Family Resource Center at Lincoln A building, which is 250 Madison Street. We are excited and getting ready for that. So our office currently looks a mess, but it won't be that day because we'll have everything out and ready. So if you haven't gotten my emails or seen my posts, please let us know, because I've been trying to share it like crazy. So I hope you come, because you'll get to meet with lots of people and chat with a lot of vendors, and it's a nice time to spend your Friday afternoon getting goodies. And we'll have the therapy dogs there, and Frederick Library is going to do a couple read alouds. It should be a really good time and a wonderful experience. Along with that, Grace had mentioned our IEP series. So the first one is the 9th, and we will continue to advertise those because it will be throughout the year. And then another series that we're working on is going to be on behaviors. So Lauren, one of the BCBAs, she and us and some others from the behavior team are going to work on also doing a educational workshop on explaining more about behaviors, more about behavior plans and the process of doing that. We talked about really focusing on how we can help with transitions when it's school to home, home to school, like how to help smooth those behaviors at home, tools you can take for home when those behaviors are showing up at home and vice versa. So we're really excited about that. The first one will be in December, and then we'll do a couple more in the springtime, so please look out for that. And then we have a lot of events coming up, so if you haven't looked at our calendar at your at a glance, we've asked Public Affairs to post it on our website, so hopefully it should be up soon. And then I share it out in our monthly newsletters every month. So if you guys have any questions or suggestions, we are definitely keeping busy, so please Bring it on, we got it. We will roll it out.
Thank you, Isa and Grace. Any questions for Isa or Grace? With the very robust calendar that you have going, do you have a sense of how many folks you're targeting for each of these events? Are you collecting feedback surveys to kind of see how they feel about how the event went?
Yes, so we do have a survey that we have created for each event that we send out. We don't always get too much replies from it, but we try to. So that's, I guess, just kind of keep pushing it out when we send them. So that's our hope, but we do try.
Yeah, that's tough. I think it would be helpful for us to understand how many folks you're reaching, how many families, parents, just, how, with all of the great programming that you're putting out there, what is the impact and to what degree we're able to get folks pulled into it. I know we've had a few things that we've hosted where, we haven't had quite the attendance that we'd like, and it'd be good just to understand, what is a good target for each of these events and how many people are we reaching with a lot of this great programming. All right, thank you very much. All right, so I did want to check in with Ms. Nelson. Anything from CAS that you'd like to share? Do you want to just share briefly the role of CAS? I don't think we've done that in a while.
So there is a CAS social worker. We are all licensed clinical social workers. One per feeder. I personally am in the Walkersville feeder, so I primarily am in the middle and high school. We do consult with the elementary schools, typically the school counselors, administrators, behavior support, in reaching, they refer families to us. It could be, meeting with students who are having some mental health issues, and then we reach out to the families to get them connected with services in the community. CAS, we partner with some mental health agencies that come into schools, and so we are kind of the people who, some of us are kind of the liaisons with those partnerships. And so we make referrals to mental health agencies. If someone is struggling with housing, we connect with those families to provide resources, food resources, anything you can think of, insurance, medical, just connecting our families with any resources that they need. So that's our primary responsibilities. We have others. We're part of the crisis team, so if something is happening in a school with a family, a student, a staff member, we go and support staff, students. So yeah, that's our primary responsibilities. And I think come January, when programs start to get cut, I think lots will, a lot of families will be seeking our assistance and linking them with community resources available. But our primary focus is mental health and getting students connected with services with the help of their families. We can help with other things as well.
Thank you. I think that's a really important piece of this very complex puzzle for sure, and appreciate having your perspective here as part of this committee. So. All right, so let's move on to Brooke Schmidt. Any updates from the Special Education State Advisory Committee to share? Nothing this evening? All right. So then we are going to move on to subcommittee reports, and IS Chair Capps is going to take us through this portion of our agenda.
All right. So we would like to invite each subcommittee chair to give us an update. And if you have anyone else that has something planned for your subcommittee, whether it be an additional update or a motion, as we go through an order as detailed on the screen, this would be the appropriate time for those actions to take place. And we're going to kick it off with our treasurer, Jenny, and the budget committee.
Okay, first, for budget, I just want to say thanks to Chris Griffin because he has agreed to replace me, hallelujah, at the end of my term of treasurer. So he will continue to shadow as we go through the events that are done for the budget. So just an update on our grant that's closing out on September 30th. Down to the nth hour, we made our last purchase today, which was the last day we could make our purchase, and we used our last, we used $394.81 was the remaining money, and we did signs and some business cards. So then we had it was like $13. So the decision was just made to add a little bit more of the business cards, and the grant will spot us $2.69 that we were short on our budget. But other than that, we had made, yay, we finished our budget for the ending cycle of September 30th. So from now on, we will not overlap. So now we will do July 1st to June 30th, so no more confusion between when we have to spend money versus hold on to money. So, we also have to provide a final report at the end, and that includes, just so everybody's aware, we have to go get a list of the current members, whoever's a current member of the CCAC, all of the events that took place during that grant year, and then we always include the commendations and recommendations presentation that is done at the board. So most of this has all been already presented, but it will be updated for the next cycle when the leaders present in December. So that's what we have to provide also at the end of the cycle. And then right now, where we are sitting as far as the next grant, because we always have to make predictions, we don't really know where everything's going to be, is we have $575 in custodial, resource bureau, $1,100 in printing, $200 in the domain of website cost, and $562 in family and community events. That's just kind of slated in those places. It doesn't mean it has to stay, which means Chris and I will be bugging you at some point on your subcommittees, what you would like to spend money on, how much, what's it for. We always have to have a committee approval also for any military spending. So I think that's it for me, unless anybody has any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Jen about this process? All right. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Budget Committee. We're going to move right along to membership and ask Matt if he'd be willing to give us an update.
Thank you. I really don't like public speaking, but here we are. Some forecasted goals me and the membership committee have decided that we would like to put forth is recruit new committee membership with staff, parents, and staff student members. With that, we also want to try to get rolling admissions because the 2 months it's very time consuming, and as an educator, I would like to be meaningful with that. Another thing we'd like to do is retain existing membership by conducting a survey. This is a big membership, and we want to get everybody's voice and where they are. Also to promote volunteer opportunities generally within this committee and candidates who are interested in becoming a future member or even unfortunately become a member. Monitoring and upholding membership requirements within the bylaws. And then some upcoming activities we also discussed for September and October is to fill the current vacancy that Jamie mentioned earlier. November and December, vet the SOP, the standing operating procedure. And then January and February, review CCAC membership because that's their busiest times. And March and April, fill those vacancies.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Matt and the membership committee? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move right along to the events committee, and Sukumana will give us an update.
Do you want me to use that?
Good evening. So here are the events we're looking at for this year. We'll continue to have a resource fair in March, and Ms. Shaps will be leading that. We're going to continue to partner with Partners with Success for other events like Adaptive Halloween and stuff like that. We're also looking into two more events this year. So one is we're going to trying to do Mother's Rest caregiver program for the caregivers, but we don't have, like, we still have planning in process, so we'll come back at the next meeting and present that. And also we're looking into having another event which is recognizing staff members who go above and beyond with the students with IEP. And Sarah will be leading that committee.
Hi. So Sarah and I have both kind of volunteered to co-chair what we would like to kind of propose to the committee at large to see if we could make a motion to kind of pursue looking into the planning of the event that we're mentioning. So what we're kind of thinking is a special education staff appreciation event, an opportunity for parents or caregivers or other community agency members to be able to demonstrate any kind of appreciation. We're thinking to, first time around, try to keep it low budget. We're using resources that Sarah and I both have from other counties that are already putting these events on and have been doing it for several years. Looking to probably utilize a building here in Frederick County to keep that budget low, and really just looking at the cost being the awards that we would provide, and some kind of potential little gift or something along those lines. So I think what we're looking for tonight is to put forward a motion so that we can pursue that plan, look into more of those budgetary details, and put out a timeline that we're looking for about end of April or May. Any questions?
Are there any constraints with the budget being applied that you?
That's a very good point. So anytime there is something outside of what would be typically, we always have to ask Jessica in the grants office, and then she always follows up with MSDE. So yes. So anytime it's any money that's going to be spent outside of at least what would fall in like printing or events and that type of thing, yes, would need to be first cleared with them before we can even agree to spend it. Good point.
Just a quick reminder to please grab a mic and speak loudly.
Okay. So can I go ahead and ask to put a motion forward?
Yes, please put forth your motion.
I would like to put forward a motion that the events subcommittee is able to go ahead and plan and pursue details so that we can plan that budget and allocate buildings and such that we might need.
So I'm hearing a motion on the floor from the events committee to move forward with the planning of a staff appreciation event taking place in April and May. And we will be coordinating directly with the budget committee regarding any budget requests, and we'll bring those forward to the larger committee for approval. Did I get that correct? All right, there's no motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
That's Dr. Kilpatrick.
Any discussion?
Any discussion?
Just to explore. It's just an exploratory.
I think that so that we can answer some of the questions that the committee has about budget, about when, about where, about who exactly we're allowing to do that. I think the committee would like the opportunity to get some of those details so that we can present that to you with more detail, or whoever else needs to know.
I will speak for Sarah. She can correct me if I'm wrong, since it's still on the committee. The consensus was we didn't want to move forward with looking into all of these things if the larger committee was not fully behind this type of event occurring and wasn't willing to participate in that type of an event, both with our actual capacity as volunteers and with the possibility of it having a small budgetary impact. Is that accurate?
This was an idea that was raised at the end of last year, and to Sarah's point, many other counties already do something along these lines, and I would love for us to celebrate those champions that are helping support our students and their families. It would be great for us to provide some public recognition for all of the great work that our staff, educators, and others do to support. I would like to, as you consider the audience, just consider the different types of folks that help support all of our students with disabilities and their families and see what might be possible in terms of recognition. We've got, lots of different roles, and so how do you do that in a way that is meaningful, that is good for the first foray into this, but also doesn't leave folks feeling like they're left out of a category of recognition. So just ask the subcommittee to be thoughtful about that.
Allison.
I had a thought while you were just saying those things. I wonder if this awards could be in combination with another event that happens in Frederick County where we give out awards, right? So I know at least the United Way does an annual award ceremony. I don't know if FCPS currently does an award ceremony, and then maybe we have an award segment that we get to share. That way we can utilize shared resources, and especially if it's a very similar audience who would be there, it might be a good way to finish that sentence. Go.
Yeah, so Dr. Beekman and I were talking, we would be happy to partner with you all. We have done things in the past, and of course it just always comes down to time, so we would love for you all to partner with us. We do potentially have funds as well to help out. Some of you all have been a part of Special Ed for a minute. We've done things in the past, but the sooner that we can start planning, the better. I mean, we even talked about like having events, out at the baseball field and things like that, but that just takes a lot of planning. And it's me and Katie and Jen, it's small, but we have all of you guys. So yeah, if that's something you all want to do, we're happy to meet up and talk about things we've done in the past and how you guys can help partner with us.
I think the committee would like that. We were also, part of our discussion, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, was looking at how to recognize staff and educators, to what Jamie was speaking to, from getting on the bus to getting off the bus. And that encompasses everyone within the county. Any other questions or discussion before moving forward? Okay, so the motion on the floor is for the events committee with lead Sarah and Sarah to move forward with options and coordinating with all of our different partners to explore and bring a proposal for a special education appreciation event to take place in the spring. So I'm looking for any.
We're voting.
Dr. Kilpatrick seconded it. Yeah. All those in favor? Okay, I have that as all 21. Any abstentions that I missed? Or any nays? Thank you. So moved. Miss Sarah, good plan.
I would say just reach out whenever you're ready to meet with us, and we can certainly talk through all the details and support that.
Wonderful. Anything else from the events committee?
That's it. We'll come back in next meeting and talk about the next event, discuss first.
Thank you. Moving forward to the communications committee. And that's you. Turning it right over.
There we go, that's me. All right, so we just started, just had an initial meeting, kind of getting some ideas going. Our main goals are really just to support the other committees and what you all are doing. So finding out, with the membership committee, being able to support that, bring that to the attention of the community as those openings are. Also to be able to hopefully gain some more volunteers as well. I know our committee's pretty small. We would love some more volunteers involved. So just bringing that to people's attention as well. And then with the events upcoming, being able to support those, help with just bringing awareness to that, getting good attendance to those, And then one of the newer ideas that we would like to implement this year is doing more interviews with the staff and families within the school community, just their lived experiences, bringing to light what the success stories are of what's going on within the community. So that's where we're at to start.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for communications?
Laura, I have more of a comment. Recently, Dr. Amy had brought up the kind of teacher shortage going on in special education. In addition to highlighting staff and family success stories, I was thinking maybe working or partnering with Dr. Amy to highlight teachers in training or students in training with Hood College to talk about the teacher success stories and bring awareness to the shortage that is currently happening with special education.
Thanks. Anyone else? I see Drew.
This might be a Venn diagram. You mentioned doing some features on success stories. So if we do move forward with the event for the appreciation, that might just be a natural alignment to just do a more coordinated overlap of detailed narratives on that. So again, I'm not sure if that's redundant or complementary, but it just seems like a good fit, and just the whole coordination and really just the maturity of that model, which sounds really great examples, but just thinking out loud.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'm going to move forward. And we're on to student voices. Ms. Zoe.
All right, student voices. So we have some big ideas, and we're going to try to do as many as we can. So one of our main goals is a student survey to get information about each program from the students. We are going to have parents assist with their students where needed. So obviously, like the students who are in expressions and have some trouble speaking outright to us, it would be hard to answer like specific questions. We could ask parents as well. My pre-K programs, I'm not really going to answer the questions as easily, so we can have that parent information there as well. And then we would like to create different forms for different age groups and encourage open communication. Another thing that we're really looking into is sibling outreach, to create a survey for siblings to share their opinions on special education programs and their family dynamics, and be able to share some of that information with school counselors as well to see if there's any gaps that need to be done in the school system for that. We would like to do a student spotlight and or a student staff partnership spotlight, and do that in the school's newsletters or papers. We also have employee newsletters that we can look at to possibly push it out through. I would like to use as many student resources as possible, so possibly like the journalism groups at some of the schools to be able to write some of those news articles to get them involved as well. We're going to continue looking into curriculum on disabilities in the health program for all ages. So there's health in elementary, middle, and high school, and obviously those would vary on the intensity and difference of what we're talking about per level, but we just want to get as much information out as possible. And then we would also like to get out more information and awareness on unified sports. So kind of our little bit of a calendar is in September, October, we're going to work on creating student surveys for different age groups, flyer for student meetings, and compiling information on students for each program. Anavi had mentioned that she's part of a committee that has a lot of students come together, and that she would be able to pass out some of this information through her committees to get it to the schools a little bit faster through the students themselves. In November and December, we're going to do ongoing surveys, reach out to counselors with sibling information, spread information on unified sports, and work on the student spotlights. in January, February, we'd like to look at the climate for IEPs in Chapter 4 and meet with health curriculum. And then in March and April, we're just going to keep compiling the information and obviously have meetings throughout with the special education department.
That sounds amazing. We're going to try our best. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Zoe and the team, the Student Voices? Other than, that sounds great. Jamie?
So as we look to survey folks, we may want to partner with our fine special education leaders here so that we're not duplicating surveys that may be going out, so that also that we're getting good language crafted for the intent of what we're trying to collect. And we probably want to have some sort of motion before this body for whatever that survey activity is that we're going to sort of pursue. So you go ahead, Dr. Bingman.
Yeah, so I was actually thinking, oops, I turned it off instead of on, I apologize. No, I was thinking, I wrote myself a note, just because, surveys, we do have a lot of those throughout the school year, and so it is always important for us to consider who we're surveying, when we're surveying them. Just here in November, we will be surveying all of our students for our typical annual systemic survey that we do. We also have the state survey that goes to students, and so there is such a thing as survey fatigue that we hear. And so what we find is that if we survey too much, then people don't take the surveys. And so we try to be very thoughtful about when we survey, how we survey, and who we're surveying. And so I do think that that's something that we can consider. And so at some point, maybe we can just kind of talk through some of the questions that we're thinking about and how it can fit into some of the other surveys that we're already doing. But we do have to think through that whole process and plan. I love the idea of being able to utilize the student voices that are already happening. And so I think there's lots to explore, and super excited about that. I know that Ms. Buckley and I were just talking today about how we can hear more of the student voice. So it's certainly a focus for us. We've talked about trying to have some of our staff go out and do some focus groups with students, so we hear from them directly and we hear their voices, that we can collect what we hear across. Are there certain things we hear at elementary that's different from middle, that's different from high? So know that that's something that we're also exploring, but again, we can talk more about it.
Are there any permission or privacy concerns around reaching out to students as we try to get more engaged with them?
I think that what we have to think about is that they're coming to, like, are you putting out for offering for them to come and attend things? I know there was the Student Voices last year, and so students made that choice. If we're posting things on social media and saying, students, here's a survey we want you to take, I mean, certainly those things can be put out there and then students can have a choice. It's just if we're trying to send it directly, that we are sending it directly to students, then we certainly have to consider that. And so that's where I'm thinking we just really need to think about what is the way that we want to consider it, and then we have to think through what are those types of considerations. So lots to think about and lots to consider. You always think a survey seems so simple, but coming from the accountability team previously that did the systemic surveys, I realized how complicated surveys actually really are.
Thank you. Is there any, I'll let you continue on.
I would just add, as we continue our work and planning for our student voices, we can share that in our director updates, and that way you can hear some of the plans that we're doing, and then we can certainly share with you some of the themes that we hear as we continue to consider, like, how can we think about and hear from our students at each level.
Sounds like we have opportunities for more partnership with the Office of Special Education and our Student Voices team. Any other questions or other conversations regarding all the great things that we just shared?
Are there any motions?
Any motions that you want to bring forward?
I don't think at this time. I think we're going to meet and discuss what we would like to bring a motion forward to possibly at the next meeting. If anybody is interested in adding any questions, concerns, comments, you're obviously welcome to email us. And then we do have our next meeting scheduled for
11th, which is a Saturday morning at 9:30
a.m. if anybody would like to join in that meeting as well.
So I'm going to reiterate, if anyone would like to be part of this process with the Student Voices team, October 11th, 9 a.m.
9:30 a.m.
9:30 a.m., October 11th, 9:30 a.m. Sleep in till 7. Great. Thank you. And at this time, I don't believe we have any updates from policy and legislature unless you have one, in addition to what you gave earlier.
I think in addition to what I shared regarding the visit with Van Hollen's office and the conversation around the funding formula, which I do want to extend a thank you to Director Keller for all of the great information that he shared. I think there is also an opportunity for us to, as we were talking about data earlier, if there is data that we are looking for that we can't get access to, that the state isn't tracking, it would be great to understand some of those things. There is the Maryland Longitudinal Data System Governing Board. I am a member of that governing board. I'd be happy to take any potential opportunities around more, better, different data forward that would give us a better way of looking at data related to students with disabilities so that we can better target certain outcomes or what have you. And then also Laura did some good work in terms of helping us start to track legislation and what's happening in various organizations and added us to some mailing lists. So we're going to be tracking legislation with the General Assembly that is introduced. We are also following the IDEA bill that Senator Van Hollen introduced. So we with these monitorings, we'll get real-time updates if there are changes to co-sponsors or statuses of the bill. And there's a few other entities that we're now part of that we can get updates around. And then for the Board of Education election, I did reach out to Hood College, and there is a tentative date in May. I believe it's May 7th or 9th. I'll have to go back and double check. To host a candidate forum. There is availability there, so I do want to, it is a ways off, but there is, planning that will need to get sorted out early next year as we figure out the landscape. Candidate filings are due in February, and then we'll need to start socializing. So historically, CCAC put out a questionnaire and also hosted a forum for candidates for I think it was the primary. So I would like to move that we continue with that precedent and put out a questionnaire to special education candidates that will be posted and made available to anyone who would like to peruse that information. That is my motion.
Here. Do we have a second? I have a second from Jen Wheat. Any discussion?
I just have a clarification. You said any candidate for special education. You mean candidate for Board of Education?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate that clarification. It's important.
Okay. Any discussion? All right. We have a motion on the floor to move forward with creating a questionnaire that would be made available to all candidates in the primary for the Board of Education election coming up in 2026. And then the results would be posted in a public forum for any persons participating in the election to view. And it has been seconded by Jen Wee. All in favor? Was this 24? I see. And any abstentions or nays? So moved.
All right. So I'd also like to move that we continue with past precedent and host a candidate forum similar to what we did, not in partnership with the entity that we we partnered with previously, but make this potentially a little bit more broad with other disability type organizations or the League of Women Voters, some other entity that we could, in a nonpartisan way, partner with to bring those candidates to a forum in person and have folks attend and hear what those candidates have to say with respect to special education as the focus of that forum. And that would be in the May timeframe, potentially at Hood, but these details would be worked out based on getting closer to the election.
Do I have a second? I have a second from Matt. Any discussion? Dr. Amy.
Would that be separate from the general purpose forum? I don't know how to call it, but the one that's happening that's already scheduled at Hood. So you're talking about a separate forum or integrating our questions into that forum?
This would be a separate candidate forum for Board of Education candidates specifically focused on special education in the early May timeframe. And the primary election is in June.
Great, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Do you want to expand on the other?
Well, I was just curious if it might be a good combination of resources again and have a larger audience if it was embedded with the other forum.
Can you speak to what that is? I don't know what that is.
Well, you mentioned that you had talked to the people who are coordinating it at Hood.
No, this is the same event. There's not two separate events.
Okay.
No, I just reached out to somebody to inquire about space.
Oh, okay, it wasn't an already existing one. I understand. Excuse me. Okay.
That's okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Rania?
So I just would want to maybe put in a crust that it would also be hybrid, because people with disabilities have trouble getting around. Transportation could be a problem, or being able to get somebody that can watch their child with disabilities. So if there was a hybrid format, that would be great.
We did strive for that last time around and had technical difficulties, but we will certainly do our best to do that. Hybrid is difficult as we've tried to explore for our own committee meetings, but it's a very valid point, and we will certainly do that if we can find a venue that will accommodate that.
Any other discussion? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to move forward with planning for a candidate forum at Hood College in early May. And we will do our utmost to make it hybrid and as accessible as possible. And the motion was made by Jamie, and it was seconded by Matt. All in favor? Okay, that's 24. Just double checking. No, any abstentions or nays? Awesome. Any other comments or questions relating to the Board of Education Election Ad Hoc Committee? Fabulous. We are going to move to the next section of our meeting of unfinished business.
Which we have not.
I don't believe we have any. So look, check. Moving on to new business. Oh. Yes, Allison.
Okay. Hi. Should I just go for it? Just start
Sure, go for it.
Okay. I'm a new member to this committee here. My name is Allie Lanham, and I am a mother of 4, and I have 2 autistic kids. Professionally, I'm the Senior Director of Fundraising, Marketing, and Development at the ARC of Washington County. I say that in context before I talk about what this is. So the ARC of Washington County, part of my responsibilities are grants and grants management for our programs and services, and we have received
the Ethan Saylor Alliance grant for several years. Ethan Saylor was a young man in Frederick, 2012, who sadly passed away at the hands of a first responder when he refused to leave the movie theater. Since then, the Ethan Saylor Alliance has created funding opportunities to strengthen the relationship between first responders and individuals in the IDD community. The ARC of Washington County has received funding from this funding body for several years now, and when we just had our event, their representative, Jennifer Easton, came and shared with me products from other events that had happened in Maryland. And one of the products that she shared was from the Autism Society of Baltimore Chesapeake, and they had used the funding from the Ethan Saylor Alliance to create booklets at about this size, so like 2 by 4, a little bit, maybe 3 by 4, and they are hardy plastic, and they go in one direction in English and the other direction in Spanish, and what they are is nonverbal cues, so that individuals talking or individuals in the first responders community who are working with someone in the IDD community, they can use nonverbal identifiers while they're having those conversations. So my experience with my children is once they get into fight, flight, or freeze mode, they often can't do a lot of things, but one of which is to speak and reason. However, these visuals are able to address those things. So one of the pages is a yes/no, so not only is it words, but it's also a picture of a yes and a no, or a check mark and an X. And it's a pretty nice little booklet. I had received several of those copies for Washington County, and I had asked about giving them into Frederick County. However, there is a financial barrier there. Looking on this committee, I thought through maybe it would be a good initiative to bring forth here for our student resource officers to have one of these booklets per resource officer, so that in case they are in that moment where they're working with a child with a disability who no longer can access or never could have accessed communication verbally, they can use this booklet to help those communication moments. That's one. The other point I wanted to make is that the mobile crisis unit is no longer in effect, I don't think, in Frederick County. It's no longer in effect in Washington County. And so this would be another resource that maybe we first with the SROs, but then maybe we suggest to the greater Frederick County area that our first responders should also request for these booklets. I looked up how many schools we have. We have 69 schools in Frederick County Public Schools. I don't know how many resource officers that is. I don't know if it's 1 per school, 2 per schools.
So basically for feeders.
Yeah, I can, we get the list, I can pull it.
So we were
always gonna pull up the list for us, just keeping everyone in the loop.
Should have given the mic. And with that cost associated, for 69 books, it would be $338.10. So there's different price breaks, but essentially it costs $4.90 per booklet, which is a very small price when you start to consider how valuable that piece could be. When we were speaking about the budget, there was a line item we said about printing is $1,100. I don't know if this would fall underneath that, or we would have to kind of propose it upward. But it does fit under a printing line item. I have 2 suggestions for a motion, and I don't know where to go from here, so I'm going to propose 2 options. One, propose to FCPS to consider purchasing these as a recommendation from the CCAF committee, and then offer that they pay for it for the resource officers and distribute it,
Or the second side, if we did have funding, I think this would be a valuable investment. And the proposal, the second idea would be to propose that we pay for it and gift it to FCPS for their distribution to their SRO officers, with a question of how and when do our student resource officers are trained, and maybe this is part of that training that they receive.
And just for the record, we only have 25.
Oh, okay. 25 times. That'd be $122.50.
Okay, so I'm hearing Ally is interested in possibly one or the other motion before I move forward with a second, because I feel like we need to decide which motion before we move forward. Does the Office of Special Education have anything they'd like to comment about this suggestion?
So our SROs do have access to our training, and they also do go through other various trainings of their own. So I would be interested to see, I mean, typically when they're interacting with our students, we're there. So we either have access to communication or we know, ways to help de-escalate as well. So I would just be interested in potentially following up with them to see like if they already have something that they utilize. I've never necessarily seen anything, so.
That's what I was thinking, I would like to see it so that we can really consider, and so just listening to it, it sounds great, but I would love to see it and then be able to really think through how, and to Mr. Keller's point, we do meet with SROs and provide professional learning, and so that's certainly something that we could include. But again, if we could see it.
Is your training on a rolling basis, or is it annual basis, or is it when someone gets hired and then they have to go through the training? Like, what does that process look like?
Pretty much annual. We collaborate with our supervisor for security emergency management and determine what we need to do and then schedule it with him.
Is there any section of that training currently for how to deal with special education students? Or special, properly say that.
We do. I'm trying to think of when the last one we had scheduled and when the next one's coming up.
So summer is always an opportunity for us to meet, and obviously we have different jurisdictions, so we work with Frederick County, and then we also work with Frederick City Police. We also, Thurmont has a jurisdiction, Brunswick has a jurisdiction, so we've offered training. Now, of course, they do have some of the things that they provide their staff as well, so I think it's just a conversation like Dr. Beeman was mentioning, that we just want to make sure it's integrated and that they're aware of it's potential something that's already available, just not the visuals per se, but that they have some access to something.
Can I make a suggestion? Can I suggest that we let the Office of Special Education investigate what tools the different jurisdictions may be using? And in the meantime, this would be something we consider as a CCAC recommendation at our annual accommodations and recommendations coming up in December. And that would also allow us to explore if this would be a cost the larger committee would want to do and what that would mean budgetarily in terms of approval from MSDE.
Yes, and I will bring the copies so you can see them. I know I really wanted to have today, but I forgot. So is this a motion to table for now?
Yes, I would say we table this motion for now. If Amy may have something to share, it looks like.
I have a comment.
Okay, go for it, Amy.
I just wanted to clear up that Shepherd Pratt is still providing mobile crisis services in Frederick County. Other agencies are trying to, they have put in their proposals to take that program over, so they're hoping there's no lapse in mobile crisis in Frederick County.
That is really good news. Very, very. Thank you, Sharon.
So this time, I think we're going to table this and allow all the entities to do some research. And if you have something, actually, I think Ms. Rania has a comment.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to ask, is Shepherd Pratt offering those services to those who are not insured, or is that only for those who have insurance?
Yes, there is, no payment is accepted. It's free for anyone. And you can access that by calling 211-988, or they have a phone number.
Drew, I think you had something too.
Director Keller, if you would, when you talk to the SRO team, if you could clarify whether they have access to students who already have special needs. So if they go into a situation, there's a roster where they would even know that the student has special needs, or any type of details about, general details about the student's an expression student, or I'm just, the reason I mentioned that is I heard something on the news, maybe others did as well. Virginia is starting I think a new legislation called the Blue Folder Program, where citizens in Virginia can opt in with the DMV to sign up and put special needs information in Virginia. So if there is a first responder event in Virginia, they first check for someone who has a blue folder so they can have some opt-in voluntary information. So I thought that was really interesting, and maybe there's an opportunity here, given a nexus to this SRO, that there could be an opt-in for parents, because I know things can happen outside of in the hallways or what have you, where maybe an SRO might not have that kind of typical support.
Definitely, and there is a registration process that is available that parents can go through. One of the things that me and Ms. Buckley were talking about is quite often there's a lot of concerns out in the community, because when they're at school, they're with staff that know the student, and then our SROs are trained, whereas in the community, they're not SROs, they don't have the same training. So that's where, the impact also is a little bit different in thinking about how we can help support our students and the community when they're not with us.
Thank you for, I got one more, Ms. Sarah, and back to Allison.
Just want to plug one put in as all the entities are kind of making their research and going about all of that, is that working with students that I typically work with students that are using alternative access and one of the things that I know is that many of our students are using different types of systems. And so one of the things I would like to encourage, and one of the things that I like about this system, even though I haven't seen it, is the idea that it would be a consistent system that potentially first responders would be trained on. I like the idea that potentially this could be something to start with our SROs, but potentially be expanded to other first responders. But oftentimes we have people that are responding to emergency incidents in our schools with ambulance, so EMTs, that sort of thing, as well as a lot of our students are also intimidated by firefighters that may be responding to our schools for a variety of reasons. So I think this is something that could be further expanded. But I just wanted to caution everybody that while those systems do exist in our schools for our students, they're often not consistent across the board. So if there was something in the community that could be provided, that could provide more consistency for the people that are responding, I think that is something that would be a consideration.
Ms. Alley, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Sorry, so I wanted to clarify, so far, these booklets have been given out in Baltimore, and then Washington County is working on our distribution right now. Part of our initiative was to have the people supported by the ARC of Washington County take those booklets with them when they meet with the first responders, but I know it's widely distributed already in Baltimore. And then the second piece I just wanted to mention to talk about Mobile Crisis Unit real quick was that they do keep track if you ask them to. So I'll say, this is Mom of Jack, this is what's going on. They'll pull up his file and they have all the information in the past as well. And so I know that we had a question about insurance, but no, you don't need any insurance. It's free and open to the public. And oftentimes when you call 911, you can say, please also call Mobile Crisis, right? Because you might want that duality of support coming onto your needs. And then you could get on that line with Mobile Crisis and say who you are, and they could reference that, which is a great service.
Great, so, all right, to sum it all up, we're gonna let the Office of Special Education do a little research, and then
We'll bring a booklet.
we'll bring this, and you can feel free to share if you have like a website or something, you can put it in the all chat, or if there's pictures of it you wanna share, you can feel free to share that way as well. And then we'll take a look, and we can also find out in terms of our budget what flexibility we may have, or if we would be allowed to purchase that type of item, because each purchase has to be approved by the state. Fabulous. So, continuing in new business, at this time, we'll open up the floor to any other parent members that may have an update, comment, or something they would like to share for the greater good. Any parent? Chris?
I'll break up the monotony. Kind of piggyback on Ali's comment about having the SROs trained with these little pamphlets. I don't know if you guys know about Pathfinders for Autism that's based out of Baltimore. They have first responder training where they bring the parents and the children like what to do at a traffic stop. So I don't know if there's a way that we could maybe partner with them and having them come out here and help and train the first responders of the SROs in any way.
Thank you, Chris. Any other parents, anything you want to share, comments? Ms. Jamie?
Thank you. The Rights Law Conference is coming up. It's this week, and I will be attending and learning all kinds of great information. And I want to thank PPMD for hosting that in a virtual format that makes it accessible. And I think you're attending as well, right? So we will both share back whatever we learn from that conference with you all.
I'm going to share a proud parent moment because that's what this time's for. My son, who is on the spectrum, participates in 4-H because it's incredibly inclusive and you're able to do whatever makes your heart happy. He has, for the last several years, loved to bake. If you open the Frederick News Post today, my son took grand champion for the entire youth building with his peach pie, and he is on cloud nine. So I just want to share with all of you, this was a boy when he started 4-H, wouldn't talk to anybody, was terrified to walk into the building to submit his submission, who has now, in the last 3 years in this inclusive environment, been willing to go for a conference judging where they talk to you about your pie, how you made it, try it in front of you, critique you, then received the phone call and worked up the courage over an entire day to stand up front while his pie was auctioned off at the cake auction. So it's a huge growth, and I just want to share something awesome going on in our community with 4-H and the Great Frederick Fair.
Awesome.
Any other parents? Okay, we'll move right on to community members. Ms. Jenny?
I just wanted to share and thank Jen Bateman. She organized for a few of us in the community, the dyslexia community, to meet with the new ELA literacy team. So we got to meet with them, and it was nice. It was just a roundtable discussion, nothing formal. We got to just chat and learn about each other's backgrounds and some things that were happening in the world of literacy. So thank you for organizing that. And also, it is Unified Tennis season, so look at your schools if you have high school. Look at the calendars and see when the matches are, and feel free to come out and support your community.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Jen. Rania?
Hi, everyone. So it's National Suicide Month, and I wanted to take this opportunity to share my family's lived experience. 3 years ago, my son was in crisis, and I came to the sudden realization that he was no longer in touch with reality. He was making threats to kill himself and others, and we tried to get him help, but the system is so incredibly broken that here we are 3 years later, and we're still trying to get him help. According to the Treatment Advocacy Center, 40% of adults with psychotic disorders have suicidal ideation, 30% attempt suicide, and 10% die from suicide. According to NIMH, 6% of the adults in the United States have a serious mental illness. Those are diseases like schizophrenia, bipolar, major depression with psychosis. That is 15.4 million people. Why it matters here tonight is because all of them were children once, often diagnosed with a different disorder because psychotic disorders are typically not diagnosed before age 18. My son was diagnosed with autism, but he didn't quite fit the mold, so they tacked on ODD, ADD, and a mood disorder. of all the books I read, of all the therapy classes, the psychiatric appointments, all the social skills group and special ed that he was in. No one once ever warned us about the correlation between autism and schizophrenia. No one warned us to be on the lookout for a psychotic disorder as he grew into adolescence and adulthood. And I didn't even know what the early signs of psychosis looked like. And the early detection and intervention of these diseases is crucial in changing the trajectory of the disease, because the longer someone is in psychosis, the more damage occurs to their brain and the less chance they ever have of recovery. So these children are already in the special ed system with IEPs and 504s, diagnosed with something else. Is there anything that we can do to help identify these children who might be at risk for serious mental illnesses and psychotic disorders, so that the parents can at least be aware that there's a potential for something like this? But how do we identify them? How do we get that information into the hands of the parents? We screen for vision and hearing loss. We screen for things like scoliosis, because we know early intervention is crucial, and it's the same for psychotic disorders. My son, as a child, had a high IQ. Now he has a cognitive deficit, and he has poor quality of life and poor prognosis for his future. We wasted too much time chasing the wrong train down the wrong track because we didn't know. And over the past 3 years, I have met many parents in the same situation. Their children were diagnosed with something else and they didn't know to be on the lookout for a psychotic disorder. And over the past 3 years, I've met too many mothers who have buried their children because they committed suicide due to a psychotic episode. And all I can do is hope and pray that I won't be one of them.
Thank you for feeling safe with sharing that with us tonight, Rania. Do we have any other community members? Any staff members that would like to share anything this evening? I have Zoe and then Matt.
So we're going to switch on actually first. Thursday I saw all the program coordinators from all the different programs at my school, which was nice to see the collaboration, as well as, sorry to put you on the spot, Sarah came in to observe me, so nice to get a different perspective from a different coordinator, a different program, as well as let our teachers that open the doors that we can collaborate, and I feel really comfortable that I'm working with Middletown primaries teachers, I'm working with Urbanas to make it equitable across the board, so if I need something I can go to them first before I feel frustrated. And as well as Carroll Manor, on September 9th, we celebrated the alcohol syndrome day, so we wore our red shoes and our red socks across the school, so it was nice as a school to do.
Thank you, Matt. So,
I would like to say that today is Wiedemann-Steiner syndrome day, and it is a genetic disorder that affects development and causes distinctive facial features, short stature, and an intellectual disability. So I just wanted to go ahead and give that some awareness. At Whittier this week, we're doing the Start With Hello campaign, which has been started by the City Hook Foundation, and it's a way to kind of start conversations with people. So today was our wear a special hobby or something that you like shirt, and then tomorrow we're neon colors to encourage smiles. We'll also be doing dress up like your date or your grade, and then our school colors will be the week. But that's just a way for us to encourage each other to open up communication and just say hello, even if you don't know somebody in the school. And then also tomorrow at Whittier, we have a member from the National Education Association to come speak with support staff, all the staff, but mostly the support staff, to try to get some more encouragement, a little bit more of everybody kind of on the same page, trying to see where our future lies with that. And so I would like to take that opportunity to also speak with them about the IDEA and see what connections I can make through NEA for them.
Thank you, Zoe. And the other staff? How about our Mary Kate?
Hi, I'll be hosting a DDA application night at Oakdale High School on September 30th from 6:30 to 8 o'clock. If anyone needs support in completing the application, or if you know friends, please send them my way. And then the Success Academy is hosting an informational session on October 1st, which is in the evening, and I can share out that information as well. And the next time I come, I'll bring the rest of our calendar for the year for informational sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Kate. Anyone else? Oh, I see Isa.
I also just wanted to share that today is the start of Hispanic Heritage Month and goes from today until October 15th. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Any other staff? Moving on to our student member. Do you have anything you'd like to share with the group? Not at this time? Okay, that's acceptable. I don't believe we have anyone signed up for public comment. We didn't receive any other public comment of any kind that I'm aware of, do we? No. Okay. Want me to keep going?
Sure.
All right. I'm going to keep going. We're going to roll right out of here in just a minute. Our next meeting, we will have guest speakers Senator Karen Lewis Young and Liz Zogby, co-chair of the Maryland Blueprint Special Education Work Group. It will be Monday, October 20th from 6 to 8 p.m. here at the Board of Education building. If we have no further business, I will adjourn our meeting tonight at 7:57.